In the desolate expanse of the post-apocalyptic wasteland, survival hinges on power, resilience, and sometimes a willingness to blur the lines of morality. Along the numerous factions competing for supremacy, none are as notorious as the Enclave. Claiming to be the rightful successors of the United States and guardians of humanity's purity, their deeds reveal a far grimmer reality. From their enigmatic pre-war roots to their genocidal aspirations and unyielding pursuit of dominance, the Enclave's history is steeped in ambition, arrogance, and devastation. I will make a note that I have also made an effort to avoid repeating information, but if certain details are reiterated throughout this video, it is only to provide necessary context. Join us as we delve into the dark legacy of one of Fallout's most controversial and fearsome factions. The Enclave is a shadowy paramilitary organization that operates as a self-declared continuation of the United States government, but its true nature is far darker. Publicly, its members proclaim themselves to be the custodians of pre-war America, adopting slogans like "God Bless America" to emphasize their supposed legitimacy. Beneath this patriotic facade, however, the Enclave is dedicated to a genocidal ideology, seeking the complete extermination of anyone outside their ranks. These individuals, whom the Enclave dehumanize as genetic non-compliance offenders, are viewed as an aberration to be purged in the pursuit of a pure humanity. The origin of the Enclave lies in the highest echelons of pre-war power, composed of presidents, generals, politicians, industrial magnates, and other influential figures. This cabal operated as a covert government within the government. They considered themselves not merely American leaders, but the nation's rightful heirs, the best and brightest of a society teetering on the brink of collapse. To outsiders, particularly in the years following the Great War, the Enclave appeared as a manifestation of elitism, a group of the wealthy and powerful clinging to their influence while the rest of the world burned. Over time, the Enclave's ideology grew increasingly twisted. Their belief in radical and genetic purity mutated into full-scale plans for global genocide. To the Enclave, anyone outside their organization, be the Wastelanders, super mutants, or ghouls, was a mutant to be eradicated. Their vision was the establishment of a radical, pure state composed solely of true humans, with the Enclave reigning supreme. The means to this end were as brutal as the goal itself. The organization engaged in human experimentation, slavery, torture, and unprovoked violence against any who opposed them. Their actions have earned them a reputation of a fascist, tyrannical force, and former members have not shielded away from describing the groups in these terms. Unsurprisingly, the Enclave has been hunted relentlessly by other factions, including the New California Republic, or NCR, and the Brotherhood of Steel, or BOS. Both groups, at different times and on opposite coasts, have waged bloody wars against the Enclave, treating all of its members as war criminals. Before the bombs fell, the Enclave had already entrenched itself as the shadowy hand behind many of the government's darkest secrets. They orchestrated cover-ups of extraterrestrial life, harnessing alien technology for their own purposes. When Quere Verum, a rogue organization, attempted to expose these conspiracies by stealing a prototype alien weapon, the Enclave responded swiftly and ruthlessly, exterminating them. As the resource wars escalated and nuclear conflict loomed, the Enclave poured resources into survival contingencies. These efforts included fortified installations, such as the Poseidon Oil Rig, Raven Rock, and the White Spring Congregational Bunker, all funded by embezzled government money. Thomas Eckert, a key figure of the Enclave, covertly funneled Department of Agriculture funds to establish the White Spring as a future hub of Enclave operations. Vault-Tec's infamous Vault experiments were also tied to the Enclave schemes. Though marked as safe havens for civilians, the Vaults were actually elaborate social experiments conducted under the Enclave's watchful eye. The Enclave utilized advanced monitoring equipment on their oil rig to observe and manipulate the Vault populations. For example, they sent the all-clear signal to Vault 8 shortly after the war, facilitating the Vault dwellers' emergence and the founding of a new city. This surveillance network also allowed them to track the progress of other vaults, such as Vault 13, whose population would later become crucial to their plans. The original purpose of these experiments was startlingly ambitious: to gather data for the construction of a multi-generational starship. The Enclave assumed that Earth would become uninhabitable after a nuclear war, and that humanity's only hope for survival lay in colonizing other planets. However, as the war descended into chaos, these long-term plans were overshadowed by more immediate concerns. In the final days before the Great War, the Enclave's existence was a poorly kept secret. Rumors of a shadow government had circulated for years, and investigative journalists like Mags Vecchio of the Boston Bugle had begun to piece together the truth. Vecchio uncovered evidence that the president had abandoned the White House for a Poseidon oil rig designated as Control Station Enclave. Her expose lent credence to suspicions of a militarized cabal poised to seize control in the event of a nuclear Armageddon. Tragically, her findings were published mere days before the bombs fell. ensuring her revelations would be buried under the ashes of global destruction. On October 23, 2077, the Great War erupted, reducing the world to a post-atomic wasteland. The Enclave, despite its meticulous planning, was caught off guard by the scale of the devastation. Communication lines between their installations, including the White Spring bunker and the oil rig, were mysteriously severed. Eckert, stationed in White Spring, declared himself President of the United States and redirected the Appalachian Enclave's mission. What was initially a scientific endeavor to ensure humanity's survival was transformed into a personal crusade for revenge against China. The Enclave's response to dissent, both before and after the Great War, was swift and brutal. Members of Congress who opposed their agenda were executed, and internal dissenters faced similar fates. Eckert's plans for Appalachia culminated in the execution of his political rivals within the White Spring bunker, solidifying his grip on power. However, his leadership, like much of the Enclave's legacy, was marked by paranoia and a single-minded pursuit of dominance. Their secrecy and ruthlessness ensured their survival in the short term, but left them isolated and despised in the long run. Although Thomas Eckert's reign as the leader of the Appalachian Enclave was brief, spanning less than a decade, it left a permanent scar on the region and nearly brought humanity to the brink of annihilation. Obsessed with vengeance, Eckert devised the catastrophic plan to launch a secondary nuclear strike on China, utilizing Appalachia's automated missile silos. However, the silos required a convincing justification to go to DEFCON 1 once more. Eckert's solution was nothing short of horrifying. He unleashed escalating waves of destruction upon Appalachia, starting with liberators and progressing to super mutants. His crowning atrocity was the release of scorch beasts, massive, mutated bats infected with a virulent plague. These creatures not only wreaked havoc, but could also control other living beings, spreading the plague like a wildfire. Eckert's unrelenting pursuit of his goals fractured the Appalachian Enclave, sparking a violent civil war. General Ellen Santiago led a resistance movement against them, resulting in a short but brutal conflict that culminated in the annihilation of the Enclave's presence in Appalachia. During the final confrontation, Santiago's forces severely damaged Modus, the AI that controlled the White Spring bunker. In self-defense, Modus sealed the bunker and filled it with toxic gas, eradicating all remaining Enclave personnel in the region by 2086. Yet, Modus endured, becoming the sole survivor of the Appalachian Enclave. It began repairing the bunker and attempting to recruit new operatives, including a Vault 76 dweller in 2102. When Captain Oliver Fields and his U.S. Army survivors returned to Appalachia in 2103, Modus reached out to them as well, but Fields categorically rejected the Enclave's claims to legitimate governance. Speculation continues about whether Orlando and the White Spring Resort's management are connected to the Enclave, given their access to vast resources and control over the area. By the mid-22nd century, the Enclave had finally embraced its identity as a last bastion of pure, mutation-free humanity. Their ideology framed the existence of wastelanders, people exposed to radiation, as an intolerable threat. By the 2140s, this belief crystallized into genocidal intent. President Dick Richardson exemplified this mindset in 2141, declaring that after deploying the FEV-curling 13 bioweapon, the Enclave would usher in the first generation free of the mutant threat in over 100 years. The Enclave's pursuit of technological dominance was relentless, beginning even before the Great War. Although early attempts to improve the T-51 power armor fell short, a new research effort under Richardson's directive in 2215 finally bore fruit. By 2220, the Enclave had developed an advanced suit of power armor, just in time for Congressman Richardson's election as president. In 2235, the Enclave turned their sights to creating shock troops by experimenting on deathclaws. July 2236 marked a turning point when Enclave scouts discovered the ruins of the Mariposa military base. Excavations began, with enslaved wastelanders forced to dig through the rubble while being exposed to residual FEV contamination. One of the captives, Melchior, realized the Enclave would execute the slaves once their work was done. As mutations took hold, he secretly armed his fellow captives in anticipation of a revolt. On January 2237, Enclave scientists successfully retrieved a pure sample of FEV from Mariposa. Shortly after, Melchior and the other mutants staged an uprising, killing many Enclave personnel. The surviving Enclave forces sealed the mutants inside the ruins, abandoning the site, but securing the FEV samples they needed. This sample was the cornerstone for the development of the FEV-curling 13 bioweapon, a staggeringly lethal agent capable of exterminating 99.5% of all mutants worldwide. From 2236 to 2238, The Enclave also conducted experiments on Frank Horrigan, a soldier exposed to FEV. Horrigan's escalating mutations turned him into a monstrous killing machine, and by 2239, he was outfitted with custom power armor to serve as the Enclave's ultimate enforcer. Meanwhile, the Enclave forged a covert alliance with New Reno Salvatores, trading advanced weapons for critical chemicals needed to finalize Curling 13. By 2241, the bioweapon was nearing completion. To test its efficiency, the Enclave raided Vault 13 in the village of Arroyo, abducting inhabitants for use as experimental test subjects. By autumn 2242, they had manufactured 250,000 gallons of the toxin, prepared for global deployment. However, their genocidal plans were thwarted by the Chosen One, who infiltrated the oil rig, assassinated President Richardson and Frank Horrigan, and triggered a nuclear explosion that obliterated the facility and its toxin reserves. The oil rig's destruction shattered the Enclave's leadership and infrastructure. Disorganized and demoralized, the remaining forces regrouped at Navarro. In late 2242, John Henry Eden, an advanced AI at Raven Rock, assumed the mantle of Enclave president. Under his orders, many West Coast survivors relocated to the Capital Wasteland. Navarro remained operational until the NCR launched an invasion in the mid-2240s. The NCR's victory scattered the remaining Enclave forces, some fleeing east while others attempted to integrate into the NCR with little success. Meanwhile, at Raven Rock, Eden harnessed the facility's manufacturing capabilities to rebuild the Enclave's military strength. He deployed iBots to spread propaganda and advanced research projects like Hellfire power armor to maintain the Enclave's technological edge. The Enclave embarked on an aggressive campaign of expansion in 2277, coinciding with the activation of Project Purity, a monumental water purification facility located in the DC Tidal Basin. Their forces swiftly raided the facility, establishing a fortified perimeter around it. Their plans were derailed by the project's lead scientist, who sabotaged their efforts by initiating the purifier prematurely. This action flooded the control chamber with lethal radiation, costing the scientists their life and nearly killing Colonel Augustus Autumn in the process. Left unable to use the purifier, the Enclave shifted their focus to the scientist's child, the Lone Wanderer. This individual carried the crucial component needed to make the purifier operational. The Enclave captured the Wanderer en route from Vault 87, securing the coveted Garden of Eden Creation Kit, or GEC. With this artifact in their possession, the Enclave planned to activate the purifier. Internal conflict splintered their ranks. Colonel Autumn openly defied the directive of President John Henry Eden to contaminate the water supply with the modified strain of the Forced Evolutionary Virus, or FEV. Eden intended the virus to cleanse the wasteland by eradicating mutated life. Autumn, in contrast, saw the purifier as a unifying force to establish the Enclave as saviors of the wasteland. This ideological rift led to a brief but intense civil war within the Enclave, centered at Raven Rock. During the clash, Eden's sentry bots turned on Colonel Autumn's loyal human soldiers, further destabilizing the organization. The Enclave's attempts to maintain control crumbled when Lion's Brotherhood of Steel launched a decisive raid on Project Purity. Bolstered by Liberty Prime, a towering pre-war war machine, the Brotherhood annihilated Enclave fortifications. Liberty Prime, along with Lion's Pride and the Lone Wanderer, decimated Enclave troops and destroyed numerous vertibird gunships. This assault ended in the Brotherhood's victory, allowing them to seize control of the now operational purifier. Colonel Autumn's fate during this raid remains shrouded in mystery. Following this defeat, the Enclave fell back to Raven Rock, only for the Brotherhood to strike again. Liberty Prime led the charge, devastating the Enclave's stronghold. With Raven Rock destroyed, the Enclave regrouped at their last major facility in the Capital Wasteland, the mobile base crawler at Adams Air Force Base. From this position, they devised a counterattack. Anticipating the Brotherhood's reliance on Liberty Prime, they baited the machine into attacking a satellite relay station. As expected, Liberty Prime spearheaded the assault, but was obliterated by a devastating barrage of mini-nuclear warheads from the orbital Bailey Hercules platform. Despite their triumph in destroying Liberty Prime, the Enclave's grip continued to weaken. Their forces, demoralized and depleted from earlier losses, attempted to bolster their presence by deploying elite Sigma squads. These specialized six-man units, equipped with heavy incinerators and led by commanders in advanced Hellfire armor, targeted key locations critical to the Enclave's cause. Yet, even this calculated strategy failed to halt the Lone Wanderer, who managed to evade capture and secure a game-changing pre-war weapon for the Brotherhood. This culminated in a climactic assault on the Enclave's mobile base crawler, resulting in its destruction and the loss of their last known command center. By 2281, nearly 40 years after the fall of Navarro, the Enclave's influence in the western regions had diminished to near obscurity. Many former members either integrated into the NCR, were captured and tried for war crimes, or went into hiding. Remnants lingered in the shadows, pursued relentlessly by the NCR Rangers and bounty hunters. Some isolated groups, such as a squad in the Mojave Wasteland, remained on the fringes, their weapons and armor stored away, awaiting a call to arms that may never come. The last vestige of the Enclave's technological legacy in the West was EDE, or EDI, an advanced combat model Ibot dispatched from Adams Air Force Base before its fall. Programmed to travel to Navarro, the bot's creator, Dr. Whitley, was unaware that the outpost had been destroyed. Whether Eddie reached the elusive Chicago outpost, or if it even still remains, is a mystery. Its only identifiable relic is a rusted license plate affixed to its side. In 2287, the Enclave resurfaced in the Commonwealth under the command of Major Elias. Tasked with establishing a base of operations, they repurposed the ruins of the Atlantic office in the glowing sea as their field headquarters. The Enclave's primary objective was to recover high-value assets, including Hellfire and XO2 power armor, as well as advanced weaponry. Satellite encampments were erected across the Commonwealth, strategically placed near key locations such as the Slog, Gunner Plaza, Parsons State Insane Asylum, and Dark Hollow Pond. These camps not only served as retrieval points, but also as hubs for reconnaissance and propaganda. Ibots were deployed to spread agitprop, while other units conducted brutal tactics, including coercion and torture, to gather intelligence. The general population was deemed expendable, with standing orders to execute any witnesses or civilians who discovered their operations. One of the Enclave's most unusual remnants was Brian Richter, a former lieutenant left for dead during a recon mission. A decade after the Enclave's collapse, Richter emerged as a fervent follower of Adam on the island, fully abandoning his past to live among the zealots at the nucleus. Despite these setbacks, pockets of the Enclave endured in hidden locations. One such facility was an underground research colony nestled in the snowy mountain region, where advanced studies in biology, behavioral engineering, and energy technology continued. In 2296, a rogue scientist named Dr. Siggy Wilzig, involved in controversial cold fusion research, defected after a canine test subject fatally attacked an Enclave administrator. This defection triggered a manhunt that ended with Wilzig's demise during a chaotic encounter involving mercenaries and NCR agents. His head, containing vital research, was eventually recovered and delivered to Lee Maldiver's NCR forces at Griffith Observatory, closing yet another chapter in the Enclave's tumultuous history. The Enclave stands as a chilling testament to the dangers of unchecked power and ideological extremism. They began as a hidden cabal of elites, determined to preserve what they saw as the true America. Over time, their vision twisted into a doctrine of control, violence, and unrelenting cruelty. Yet, despite their immense power and influence, the Enclave's ambition has consistently been their downfall. Their legacy endures, not as saviors, but as a cautionary tale in the shattered remnants of civilization. The Wasteland may never forget the scars they've left behind. Thanks for watching. The next one will be going over the Brotherhood of Steel as a direct opposition to the Enclave, because I felt that was fitting. And I've also added a few more works of fiction to the roster of deep dives for me to go into, so expect some of those soon. I want to have a huge project coming here pretty soon, so look out for that. And when I say pretty soon, I mean like within the next couple weeks or so. It's gonna take me a little bit, but it's coming. Until then, hit the like button, subscribe, and all that weird shit, I guess. Stick around for the next one. Trust me, you won't want to miss it. See you then.